Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, respected lecturers, fellow students, and distinguished guests. Welcome to today's forum entitled Transitioning from Rote Learning to Critical Thinking, Developing Higher Order Thinking Skills (HOTS) for Future Success. In today's rapidly changing world, education is no longer just about remembering information. Instead, it focuses on developing students who can think critically, solve problems, and make informed decisions. According to the OECD Future of Education and Skills 2030 framework, learners need a range of competencies to navigate future challenges successfully. However, despite the growing emphasis on HOTS, many students still rely heavily on rote memorization. This raises an important question: why do students continue to struggle with developing HOTS despite various educational reforms? To help us explore this issue, I am joined by two distinguished panelists, Aiman and Farah. Before we begin our discussion, I would like to invite both panelists to briefly introduce themselves. Aiman, please.
Thank you, Nizar. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aiman, and I'm delighted to participate in today's forum. As a future educator, I am particularly interested in teaching strategies that encourage students to become more active learners and critical thinkers. I look forward to sharing my perspective on how school can better develop thoughts among our students.
Thank you, Aiman. Farah, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Nizar. Good morning, everyone. My name is Farah, and I am honored to be part of today's discussion. I strongly believe that education should go beyond helping students memorize information. Instead, it should empower them to think independently, solve problems, evaluate evidence, and make responsible decisions. I look forward to exchanging ideas with my fellow panelists on this important issue.
Thank you, Aiman and Farah. Now, let us begin our discussion. To begin our discussion, it is important that we first understand some key concepts related to today's topic. Aiman, could you explain the difference between rote learning, critical thinking, and higher order thinking skills?
Thank you, Nizar. Rote learning refers to the process of memorizing information through repetition without necessarily understanding its meaning or application. Students who rely on rote learning often focus on remembering facts, formulas, and or definitions primarily for examination. Critical thinking, on the other hand, involves analyzing information, questioning assumption, evaluating evidence, and making reasoned judgment. According to the critical thinking framework 2024, critical thinking enables learners to access information objectively and reach conclusions based on evidence rather than assumption. Critical thinking is closely associated with higher order thinking skill or HOTS. According to Liu et al. 2021, HOTS involves analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing, and creating knowledge rather than simply recalling information. Therefore, critical thinking can be considered one of the key components of HOTS. In simple terms, rote learning focuses on remembering information, whereas HOTS focuses on understanding, analyzing, evaluating, and creating knowledge.
Thank you, Aiman. Farah, despite the growing emphasis on HOTS in educational reform, why do you think many students continue to depend on memorization?
In my opinion, one major reason is the examination-oriented culture that exists in many education systems. Students are often evaluated based on academic performance, and many believe that memorization is the fastest way to achieve quick grades. As a result, they focus on remembering information rather than understanding concepts deeply. Code in 2023 highlights that assessment practice typically influence students' learning behaviors. The students tend to focus on what is rewarded in assessment. Therefore, if assessment mainly emphasizes factual recall, they are more likely to prioritize memorization rather than developing thought.
I agree with Farah's point regarding examination-oriented culture. However, I believe another important factor in students' fear of making mistakes, critical thinking and thoughts require students to question ideas, evaluate alternatives, and sometimes provide answers that differ from others. Fortunately, many students feel uncomfortable doing this because they are afraid of giving incorrect answer. As a result, memorizing feels safer because there is usually a clear and predictable answer.
That is an excellent point, Ahmed. In fact, students often associate mistakes with failure rather than learning opportunities. Carmelo Gomez et al. Found in 2025 found that critical thinking develops more effectively when students are encouraged to reflect, question assumptions, and participate actively in the learning process. When students fear being judged or criticized for making mistakes, they may avoid challenging tasks that require high-order thinking. Consequently, they become more dependent on memorization-based learning.
Listening to both of your views, I would like to ask a thought-provoking question. Do you think students themselves are responsible for this issue? Or does the responsibility lie mainly with the education system?
Personally, I believe responsibility should be shared. Students certainly have a role in taking ownership on their learning. However, educational system also influence how students learn. If students spend years being rewarded primarily for memorizing, it is understandable that they continue relying on that approach. Therefore, educational practice play an important role in shaping students' learning habits.
I completely agree. Students make choices about how they learn, but those choices are often influenced by their learning environment. When teachers encourage questioning, discussion, problem solving, and independent thinking, students are more likely to develop thoughts. However, if classroom focuses mainly on memorization or examination preparation, students may struggle to develop this. Meaningful change therefore requires collaboration between students, teachers, school, and policymakers.
Thank you, Aiman and Farah. From our discussion, it is clear that student dependence on memorization is influenced by several factors, including examination-oriented assessment system, fear of making mistakes, and limited opportunities to practice higher-order thinking. More importantly, we have established that thoughts is not simply about remembering information. Rather, it involves analyzing, evaluating, creating, and applying knowledge in meaningful ways. This leads us to another important question. What happens when students continue relying heavily on rote learning and fail to develop thoughts? Aiman, what are the academic implications of excessive reliance on rote learning?
The academic implications are significant. Students who depend primarily on memorizing may perform well on questions that require factual recall. However, they often struggle when faced with tasks that require analyzing, evaluating, creativity, and problem solving. According to Liu et al., 2021, thoughts involve higher cognitive processes such as analyzing, evaluating, and creating. This skill cannot be fully developed through memorizing alone. As a result, students may find it difficult to apply their knowledge in unfamiliar situations or solve real-world problems effectively.
That is certainly concerning. Farah, have you observed similar challenge among students?
Yes, definitely. Students rely heavily on memorization of this struggle with open and vague questions that require them to justify their answer or explain their reasoning. For example, students may successfully memorize a scientific concept but struggle to apply that concept when presented with a new situation. This suggests that the student remembers the information but does not fully understand how to use it. According to Mr. and et al. In 2021, thoughts is essential because it enables students to think critically, make informed decisions, and solve complex problems. Without these skills, learning becomes superficial rather than meaningful.
I agree with Farah. Another important consequence is the limitation of creativity and innovation. Students who are accustomed to memorizing information may become less willing to explore alternative ideas or generate original solutions. Angel Miller et al. 2023 identify critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration as some of the most important competencies required for the future workforce. Personally, rote learning often focuses on reproducing existing knowledge rather than creating new knowledge.
That is a very interesting point. Would it be fair to say that over-reliance on memorization may affect students beyond the classroom?
Absolutely. In today's world, employers increasingly value individuals who can solve problems, adapt to change, and make informed decisions. The OECD Future of Education and Skills in 2013 emphasized that future reader learners must be capable of navigating uncertainty and addressing complex challenges. Students who depend solely on memorization may struggle to meet this expectation because many real-world problems do not have straightforward answers. Instead, they require analysis, evaluation, and decision-making, all of which are key components of thoughts.
That is certainly relevant to the demands of modern society. Aiman, do you think the rise of digital technology has made thoughts even more important?
Without a doubt, in the past, education often focused on helping students acquire information because information was relatively difficult to access. Today, however, information is available almost instantly through search engines, online database, and artificial intelligence tools. According to OECD Digital Education Outlook 2026, the challenge is no longer obtaining information but evaluating whether the information is accurate, reliable, and useful. This requires students to think critically and make informed judgment. Therefore, thought has become even more important in digital age.
I completely agree. Students are exposed to enormous amount of information every day, especially through social media and digital platforms. Without thoughts, they may struggle to distinguish facts from misinformation or make sound decisions based on evidence. For this reason, developing thoughts is not only important for academic success but also for responsible citizenship and lifelong learning.
Thank you, Aiman and Farah. Having discussed the case and consequences of students over-reliance on memorization, let us now focus on possible solution. Farah, what teaching strategy would you recommend to help students develop thoughts?
Thank you, Nizam. One highly effective strategy is problem-based learning, commonly known as PBL. Problem-based learning places students in authentic situations where students must investigate issues, analyze evidence, and evaluate alternatives and propose solutions. Instead of simply receiving information from teachers, students become more active participants in the learning process. According to Darwin's et al. In 2024, problem-based learning significantly improves students' higher order thinking and critical thinking skills because learners are continuously engaged in analyzing and solving real-world problems. For example, rather than memorizing information about environmental pollution, students could investigate pollution issues within their local communities and propose practical solutions. For example, rather than memorizing information about environmental pollution, students could investigate pollution issues within their communities and propose practical solutions. Such activities encourage deeper understanding and meaningful learning.
That sounds like a promising approach. Aiman, what are your thoughts on problem-based learning?
I agree that problem-based learning is highly effective. However, I believe it may not always be practical in every classroom setting. Teachers often face time constraints, large class size, and pressure to complete the syllabus. Under this circumstance, implementing full-scale problem-based learning can be challenging. Nevertheless, I believe it benefits outweigh the limitation because it encourages students to think independently rather than rely solely on memorization.
That is a valid concern, Aiman. However, I would argue that schools do not necessarily need to implement problem-based learning on a large scale immediately. Even small problem-solving activities integrated into regular lessons can encourage students to analyze information, study opinions, and develop thought.
Excellent discussion. Besides problem-based learning, are there any other approach that can support thought development?
Yes, another effective strategy is flipped learning. In a flipped classroom, students learn basic content before class through video readings or digital resource. Classroom time is then used for discussing, collaborative activity, and problem-solving tasks. According to Yana on 2025, students who participate in flipped learning environments demonstrate stronger higher order thinking skills compared to those using traditional approach. This is because more classroom time can be devoted to analysis, action, and discussion rather than content delivery.
I agree with you. One advantage of flipped learning is that it encourages students to take greater responsibilities for their own learning. When students arrive in class, prior knowledge, teachers can focus on activities that promote thoughts rather than spending the entire lesson explaining concepts. However, the effectiveness of flipped learning depends on student willingness to prepare for class. If students fail to engage with the learning materials beforehand, classroom activities may become less effective.
That is certainly an important consideration. Apart from teacher methods, do you think assessment practice also influence student thinking skills?
Absolutely. In my opinion, assessment plays a crucial role in shaping students' learning behavior. According to Bookwork in 2022, students often adjust their learning strategies according to assessment requirements. Examination focuses mainly on memorization. Students are likely to prioritize memorization. However, if assessment requires analysis, evaluation, and problem solving, students will be encouraged to develop thoughts. Therefore, assessment methods should be aligned with the goal of cultivating higher order thinking skills.
I agree with Farah. Assessment should not merely measure how much information students can remember. Instead, it should evaluate how effectively students can apply knowledge, solve problems, and justify the decision. This aligns with the OECD Critical Thinking Framework, OECD 2024, which emphasizes the importance of evidence-based reasoning and informed judgment.
Thank you, Aiman and Farah. At this point, I would like to ask both panelists a more challenging question. If school had limited resources and could only prioritize one strategy, which approach should receive the greatest attention? Aiman, would you like to begin?
Certainly, if I had to choose one strategy, I would prioritize problem-based learning. My reason is simple. Thoughts develop through practice. Students cannot become effective critical thinkers simply by listening to lecturers or memorizing information. They need opportunity to analyze situation, evaluate evidence, and solve authentic problems. Therefore, I believe problem-based learning provides the strongest foundation for development.
Thank you, Aiman. Farah, do you agree with that view?
I agree that problem-based learning is extremely valuable. However, if I had to prioritize one strategy, I would choose assessment reform. The reason is that assessment strongly influence students' behavior. If examination continue rewarding memorization, students may continue to focus on memorization regardless of the teaching method used in the classroom. Therefore, I believe assessment reform can act as a catalyst for broader educational change.
That is a fair point, Farah. However, I will argue that changing assessment alone may not be sufficient. Students need opportunity to practice hard before they can demonstrate those skills effectively in assessment.
I agree with that concern. Perhaps the issue is not about choosing one strategy over another, but understanding how these strategies complement one another. Assessment reform may encourage change, while problem-based learning provides students with opportunities to practice fast.
That is an excellent observation. It appears that both of you recognize the importance of combining instructional approach with assessment reform. Before we conclude, I would like both panelists to identify what they believe is the most effective approach for developing thoughts among students. Aiman?
In my opinion, this problem-based learning should be prioritized because it provides students with direct opportunities to analyze information, problems, and apply knowledge in meaningful context.
I agree that problem-based learning is highly effective. However, I believe it should be supported by assessment practices that reward analysis, reasoning, and problem solving rather than simple memorization.
So, can we conclude that the most effective approach is to combine innovative teaching strategies such as problem-based learning with assessment methods that encourage thoughts?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, I agree as well.
Excellent. We have therefore reached a consensus that the development of thoughts requires both meaningful learning experience and assessment systems that value deeper learning. By integrating this approach, school can better prepare students for future challenges. As we conclude today's forum, I would like to invite each panelist to share a brief final reflection. Aiman, please begin.
Thank you, Nizar. Today's discussion has reinforced an important lesson. Education should not be limited to helping students remember information. While memorizing may provide a foundation for learning, students must also be given opportunities to analyze questions, evaluate, and solve a problem. As a future educator, we have a responsibility to create learning environments that encourage curiosity, independence, and higher order thinking.
Thank you, Aiman. Farah, your final thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. For me, the most important takeaway from today's discussion is that education should not be measured by how much information students can remember, but by how effectively they can apply that knowledge in a meaningful way. Ultimately, the goal of education is to develop higher order thinking skills, including critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and decision making skills. These competencies are essential for preparing learners to navigate the challenges of the 21st century and contribute positively to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah, and thank you, Aiman, for your valuable insight. Today, we explore why many students continue to rely on rote memorization despite the growing emphasis on HORS. We examine the consequences of this issue and discuss several strategies to promote higher order thinking among learners. Our discussion highlights that meaningful educational transformation requires both innovative teaching approach and assessment system that encourages deeper learning. On behalf of Aiman, Farah, and myself, thank you for joining us today. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead. Assalamualaikum and goodbye.